Marvel couple, director meets White Queen. Episode 51, The Last Word Fell. Li Feng's eyes suddenly burst out a black light, and a terrifying storm of momentum spread out from the soles of his feet, and an oppressive force that made everyone breathless, like thunder falling from above the nine heavens, instantly wrapped everyone inside. Then, a pair of black inverted triangular pupils, nearly 3 meters tall, looked at every mutant in the underground garage. What is that? Help! Help, quick! Come on! A flood of fear from the void, pouring down. Roar! A deafening wolf roar circled around. The storm raged and fear descended. Everyone, under the gaze of these pupils, could not move a single bit. Li Feng, on the other hand, had cold eyes, walked to Magneto step by step, stretched out a finger, and pressed his forehead. He dropped 2 words lightly. Goodbye. Click! The helmet on Magneto's head cracked, followed by his skull, and then his body fell apart, turning into oblivion. Until the last moment before death, he did not react. And the witch standing behind Li Feng, even if she wanted to do it, she didn't have this ability at all. The pair of inverted triangular pupils that came out of the void stared at everyone in the underground garage. An incomparably strong sense of fear occupied every inch of their inner veins, so that their heartbeats lost the courage to beat at this moment. Woo-hoo-hoo. A cold wind blew through. The red robe on Magneto's body also turned into ashes and disappeared from view. Everything, to dead silence. A generation of heroes, the leader of mutants, Magneto, who has been in the world for decades, just died. It happened too fast. The hundreds of mutants on the field did not react, and Li Feng's face remained unchanged, as if he casually pinched an ant to death, without any unnecessary feelings. Killing Magneto did not have the slightest psychological burden for him. It's not that he didn't give this guy a chance, but he didn't cherish it at all. Li Feng is not a good gentleman, and he has no intention of putting Magneto on trial. Directly pinched to death, simple things. As for these mutants, Li Feng looked at their fearful looks, and the coldness in his eyes did not dissipate. He heard the words shouted out by this group of guys just now. You asked for it. The words fall. Li Feng raised his finger and swiped gently. Hiss. Hundreds of mutants, heads on the ground. It's just a finger stroke. Not even blood sprayed out, not even a single scream. And in front of their corpses, black vortexes suddenly appeared, and some kind of monster hand that only appeared in the living hell apocalypse star stretched out from them, dragging them in one by one, satisfying their mouths. In Li Feng's eyes, there was not the slightest pity. Perhaps among the mutants, there are some good people who are kind. But these guys who follow Magneto are crazy people who hate humans extremely and have no reason to forgive. As a human who has fully integrated the Steppenwolf template, he can mobilize the power of the Apocalypse Star at any time. Not to mention the whole universe. At least Li Feng on Earth does not have any opponents who can cause harm to him. Maybe alien creatures with Infinity Stones can. But these mutants are all ants in Li Feng's eyes, and they can be pinched to death if they want to. A faint tremor suddenly came from behind him. Li Feng slowly turned his head, looked at the witch who had been paralyzed on the ground, and said coldly, "Oh, I forgot you, sorry." After speaking, he raised his finger and aimed at the witch whose eyes were full of tears. No. No other don't. The witch's eyes were full of horror, and her body kept curling back. She originally thought that if she became Natasha and tricked Li Feng here, Magneto would have an absolute advantage, and even if Li Feng could resist, she would not be able to turn over any storms. But what she didn't expect was that she brought not a lamb to be slaughtered, but a demon. One finger kills Magneto's demon. From the beginning to the end, in less than 30 seconds in total, more than 100 mutant elites, as well as Magneto, were all wiped out by Li Feng. Even the corpses did not have a single cent left, and she was the last survivor. At this moment, the witch has completely lost the ability to think, and her brain is only blank. Her mutant ability is transformation, which is an agility skill, and it is impossible to escape under Li Feng's hands. What to do? Beg? Is it useful? Please, let me go. Let me go, okay? I know Emma and I are great best friends. We used to grow up together in mutant school, and she loved playing with me. The witch's voice was hoarse, almost only supplicing, but Li Feng's eyes were full of indifference. In the face of his enemies, Li Feng was never soft. Last time, he relented and let go of the griffin and the angel, giving these two guys a second chance to find trouble. But this time, he won't. Just imagine, if he didn't have a keen sense that Natasha was a witch, if he didn't have the template of Steppenwolf, then the only fate of being tricked here was death. At that time, if Li Feng begged them for mercy, would he let him go? Obviously, it won't. As Li Feng's finger pointed at herself, the witch suddenly felt an indescribable suffocating sensation rise in her heart, and then every inch of blood vessels seemed to be squeezed, and there was an unimaginable tingling sensation. But at this moment, a strange blue light flashed, and the scales on the witch's body floated, and she turned into the appearance of the White Queen and appeared in front of Li Feng's eyes. "Husband, don't kill me, okay?" This White Queen had a pleading face, and her expression was exactly the same as Li Feng's memory. "Choo-choo is moving and pitiful. It's just a pity." Li Feng's face was still cold and did not waver. He's not a fool, but the witch apparently took him for a fool. Just when Li Feng was about to wipe the witch's neck, a strange laugh suddenly sounded behind him. Oblivious, a strange black mist slowly descended, blocking between Li Feng and the witch. Apocalypse? When Li Feng saw this figure, he couldn't help but sneer. How? I thought you would always hide and not come out. The lesson given to you last time was not enough, so anxious to come out to find death. You can't kill me. Apocalypse laughed gloomy twice and said, because my essence is not here. Hearing this, Li Feng couldn't help frowning, and his perception spread around. 2 seconds later, he was full of killing intent, and suddenly roared, Apocalypse, you are looking for death. Episode 53. An extremely cold killing intent boiled up, and the entire underground garage was overturned. Li Feng raised his hand and pinched Tianqi's neck, and said in a cold tone, I warn you, stay away from my wife. Don't worry, I won't hurt her. Apocalypse smiled slightly and said, I just want to exchange her for something. Exchange for what? Li Feng's face was gloomy, and the killing intent couldn't stop leaking out. He overlooked one thing. It's the White Queen. When he activated his perception earlier, he did find that the essence of the apocalypse was not here. But what he didn't expect was that the guy had already run to his villa. Although the White Queen is also a powerful existence among mutants, she has no ability to resist at all in the face of the apocalypse that has lived for 3,000 years. Genes. I need your genetic sequence. Apocalypse took 2 steps back and forth, and said to Li Feng in a greedy tone, I have lived for 3,000 years, I am one of the earliest mutants, but it is not enough, it is far from enough. As long as you can give me your genetic sequence, I will be able to become the most powerful existence in this world. I will be able to get everything I want, and I can even control the entire mutant group. When the witch on the side heard this, the fear in her eyes was even greater. Oh? Li Feng looked at him and sneered, this is your purpose? Of course, as long as you cooperate with me well, I guarantee that your wife will be safe and sound. The apocalypse monster laughed and said, otherwise, I will try my best to deprive her of everything, including her power, her. Before he finished speaking, Apocalypse was suddenly stunned. His eyes widened, his face was full of incredulity, and he muttered in his mouth, how? Whatever. Yes, so. A second later, so. The whole body of the apocalypse turned into powder and disappeared into the air. Li Feng was also stunned for a moment, frowning slightly. What happened? He launched his perceptual probe again, and all signs of life in the apocalypse had disappeared. This? Li Feng narrowed his eyes, not too entangled. He glanced at the witch, intending to kill her directly, and then go back to see if the White Queen was safe and sound. But at this time, the witch beside her suddenly trembled, looked at Li Feng calmly, and said, Mr. Li Feng, please let the witch go. She is just bewitched, and her heart is not bad. Professor X? Li Feng instantly heard the source of this tone. 9 times out of 10, Professor X controls the witch through his mental power. It's me. I'm sorry that something very unpleasant happened to us before, and I solemnly apologize to you again. But the witch is a child I brought up from childhood, and I can't watch her die without being indifferent. So I sincerely beg you, as long as you let her go this time, I promise that she will not remember anything related to you and will never trouble you again. I will take the initiative to clear her memory and let her return to her nature. And, I know you killed Magneto, and the disagreement between mutants ends here. Professor X's tone was very sincere, and when it came out of the witch's mouth, there was a hint of pleading. In fact, as early as when Magneto was killed by Li Feng, Professor X knew what happened here. Between him and Magneto, there is a kind of induction, and there were more than 100 mutants gathered here. How could he not know? Of course, Magneto died, and Professor X was also distressed. After all, he was his good friend. But Li Feng started too quickly, and Professor X was useless even if he wanted to intercede. At the same time, Professor X also understood that Li Feng could not be blamed for this matter at all, and could only say that Professor X's life was not good and he found a hard stubble. Magneto went the wrong way, and he did not persuade. If this guy, like himself, had stayed in the mutant school and lived to raise those mutant children, the outcome would have been different. At the very least, the government doesn't target mutants that way. But it's too late for anything. What Professor X can do is reduce the deaths of more mutants, and save those mutants who are on the verge of dying, pulling them out of the shadows. After listening to Professor X's words, Li Feng just sneered, and did not mean to agree at all. What are you, Professor X? Let me not kill if I don't kill? If it is you who ends up falling behind, does the devil know if you will come out to save people? Therefore, even with Professor X's intercession, Li Feng's killing intent towards the witch did not weaken in the slightest. Only dead enemies are not worthy of being called enemies. Only the weeds that are cut off will not grow twice. And Professor X obviously found that Li Feng's killing intent had not weakened, and he opened his mouth again and pleaded, Mr. Li Feng, I know it's useless to beg you, so I'm willing to take out chips. I know that your film company is in the development stage, and Magneto and I took a large amount of gold from the Nazis when we were young, and even bought an island in the Flying Island from the United Nations, and these gold are buried under the island, and their combined value is nearly 1 billion yuan. If you need it, I can give it all to you. I'm old, I just want to raise the descendants of mutants well, and it's useless to ask for this money. I will also wash away the witch's memory and guarantee that she does not remember anything about you and will definitely not cause you the slightest trouble. For the sake of the witch, Professor X is even willing to give up a sky-high fortune, which shows that Professor X still attaches great importance to feelings. This matter was actually not a secret to Feng. As a familiar with the Marvel plot, he naturally knows that Professor X and Magneto worked together in their youth, and also participated in World War II and won a lot of wealth. After all, Professor X has the ability to control the mind, and Magneto can control the metal, and the two can live for so long, there must be no lack of wealth. Even the current Feng and Professor X can only be regarded as poor. For Professor X's proposal, Feng thought about it and was indeed a little moved. An island in Feijo, and countless gold, this is a sky-high price. Who is not moved by such wealth? Moreover, Professor X also promised to wash away the memory of the witch and would not trouble Feng again. This also reduced Feng's killing intent a lot. And what kind of wind and waves can a witch make? If Professor X is smart enough, he should stop provoking him, otherwise there is only one way to die. Thinking of this, Feng had a plan in his heart. Charles, I have to say, you are a smart man. I like to talk to smart people. Your conditions, I agreed. After speaking, Feng glanced at the witch lightly and walked towards the entrance of the underground garage. Episode 54. I will ask my manager to contact you. I hope you can do what you say, and don't play tricks. After dropping this sentence, Feng's figure gradually merged with the night. He didn't bother to care about the next thing. As for how Professor X cleansed the witch's memory, it was not Feng's business. This trip not only solved the potential threat of the Brotherhood of Mutants, but also reaped a large fortune by the way. Feng was quite satisfied in his heart, but he did not let his guard down, and rushed towards his villa at the first time. Wife, I'm back, I must be fine. As for the witch, she was lying on the ground with blank eyes at the moment, and the memories in her mind were being rapidly deleted. Although Professor X is a good person, he will not be soft when he should be ruthless. Otherwise, how could an old good person protect so many mutants? Do you really think that those military and politicians are easy to deal with? Although he chose to forgive the mistakes committed by the witch, he did not want her to continue to provoke Feng without her own strength. Otherwise, the end of the mutants is really coming. If they had known that Magneto would end up like this, Professor X would have stopped them no matter what. Unfortunately, there are no ifs in the world, and everyone has to pay for their choices. If Magneto didn't target Feng's wealth, he wouldn't be killed. How powerful Magneto's mutant brotherhood will be, the X-Men have the most say. If you go head-to-head, the X-Men really won't necessarily win. However, such a powerful force was actually killed by Feng single-handedly. Moreover, it is the kind that is a flash deal. Looking at the torn walls and lifted ground in the underground garage, Professor X understood for the first time what a human god was. After this battle, the name Feng has completely become taboo among mutants, and no one dares to touch it anymore. And a few minutes ago, outside Feng's villa, the White Queen, who had regained control of her body, hummed a song while lifting the fresh steak in her hand and glancing at it, her eyes full of tenderness. But at this moment, a circle of light suddenly flashed in front of her, and a guy with blue all over his body walked out of it. Hello, Emma, it is the Apocalypse. He smiled gently at the White Queen. The next second, Apocalypse instantly came behind the White Queen, grabbed her white and tender neck, and said with a strange smile, "Don't move, as long as you cooperate with me, I won't hurt you. I'm going to exchange you for something with your husband, and if he doesn't know how to lift, you'll be sad for him, right?" The White Queen, who was standing in place, did not move. It's just that her gentle face suddenly became extremely cold. Even the voice seems to have changed. You, the Apocalypse? Apocalypse's expression froze, and the whole person took a few steps back. He felt that there was an additional terrifying power in the White Queen's body. This power did not belong to the mutant at all, and it was much stronger than him. And the White Queen slowly turned around, glanced at the fresh steak that fell to the ground. The killing intent in her eyes was like wildfire. She walked gracefully to the Apocalypse step by step, stretched out a finger expressionlessly, pressed his chest, and said softly, "You let my husband not eat fresh and clean steak, so, please die." No. Apocalypse's pupils widened suddenly, but the black light that followed instantly tore his body apart. The power of the god of death is enough to shatter everything. The White Queen didn't even move to take a second look, turned around and picked up the steak on the ground, threw it in the trash, and decided to buy some fine Wagyu beef herself. You can't let your loved ones eat something new, can you? However, what no one noticed was that after the White Queen left, a strange blue light gradually appeared on the ground where the Apocalypse stood before, following the street lamps on the side of the street and burrowing into the light. After Feng returned to the villa, he entered the door and saw the White Queen running back and forth in the kitchen with her bare feet, obviously cooking dinner for the two. This made Li Feng greatly relieved, and when he entered the kitchen, he took the White Queen into his arms. "What the hell, cook?" The White Queen glared at him. "Hee, wife, what are you doing today?" Li Feng grinned and asked. "Don't tell you, go outside and wait," the White Queen said coquettishly and pushed him out with her hand. Li Feng smiled and lay down on the sofa and drank milk. As for the X-Men and Magneto, he quickly forgot about it and didn't dwell on it for too long, because it was just a small episode in life. With this effort, it is better to think about how to deepen their feelings with the White Queen. Speaking of which, with Li Feng's efforts recently, some parts of the White Queen seem to be indeed larger. Although it was not obvious, Li Feng could feel it. After all, he had experienced it every day. This was a good start, and Li Feng decided to continue his efforts to cultivate other aspects of the White Queen. The threat of mutants was completely defused with the action of Li Feng and Hela. I believe that after the lessons of Professor X and Magneto, there should be no one who is not afraid of death to provoke Li Feng again. And the emergence of the apocalypse is also destined to be short-lived. Who let him threaten the White Queen without his own strength? If he knew that Hela, the god of death, was perched in the body of the White Queen, and gave him an estimated 10,000 guts, he would not dare to do so. In addition, Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D. has just been warned by Hela himself, so basically no one dares to come and trouble Li Feng. Li Feng and the White Queen continued to live a stable and happy life as usual. In a short period of time, there will be no more troubles for people who do not have long eyes coming to them. And Li Feng also took advantage of this time to film the battle between the Hulk and Abomination in a 100% restored way. As soon as the film was released, it caused a great sensation, and even the box office far exceeded Li Feng's expectations by 80%. This number made Li Feng slow down for a while. Although he added some elements such as contradiction and discrimination with humans themselves to the battle between the Hulk and Abomination, which added to the watchability of the movie, he never expected the reaction to be so great. Congratulations to the host for successfully releasing the new film. Get the symbiote god template from Venom. Special note, the god of symbiotes is the strongest existence in Venom's hometown. The host will have stronger power than Venom, and the symbiote is silvery white. Early one morning, Li Feng woke up and opened his eyes, and was about to take a look at the balance opened in his bank card, when he heard such a sentence. Originally, some drowsiness disappeared instantly, replaced by endless excitement. Episode 56. Watching Grant Ward's heart jumped. Li Feng was actually such a terrifying existence. Now the industry regards him as an outstanding young director, and no one will associate him with this aspect at all. No wonder Nick Fury wants to hide this secret. In fact, it was not only Grant Ward, but when Nick Fury learned about Magneto, he was also shocked. It was not until that time that Nick Fury discovered that neither of Li Feng's two was easy to mess with. Hela, the god of Asgard, whose strength is immeasurable, shares a body with the White Queen. Li Feng directly killed Magneto, one of the strongest mutants. It's true to the old saying, not a family, don't enter a house. Later, Grant Ward saw Hela's information. After these days of intentional and unintentional contact with Thor, the god of thunder, he knows some of Hela's origin and identity. Although compared with Li Feng's extensive information, Hela's information is much less. But what shocked Grant Ward was Hela's identity, goddess of death in the 9 realms. This identity, compared to Li Feng, is much more terrifying. Even if Grant Ward had any ideas, he was crushed by himself. Don't say anything else. A single Hydra organization, no matter how powerful it is only an organization established by mortals. Is there a comparison with what aliens in Asgard? Not at all. Moreover, given that it is currently in the era of mutants, S.H.I.E.L.D. keeps a close eye on everything, and Hydra can only do something unclean in secret, and does not even dare to show his face. How is it possible to provoke these two terrible guys? Grant Ward sighed and shook his head and put away Hela and Li Feng's information. There is no need to look any further. As an undercover agent, he clearly knows the strength of Hydra. The top of Hydra is not a fool, knowing that he can't afford to provoke it. So isn't that looking for death? But at this moment, a rather crazy idea arose in Grant Ward's mind. Hydra's consistent belief is to pursue or control powerful people. No, how can I have such thoughts? Hydra people will never turn their backs on their faith. As soon as Grant Ward's idea arose, it was immediately dismissed. You must know that the purpose of Hydra has always been to welcome back its own gods. Hydra is an organization. Many readers who read the comics think that it originated from Nazi Hydra, but it is not. Nazi Hydra is just a branch of Hydra in history, and cannot be regarded as an orthodox Hydra, and this department is just a Red Skull following the ideas of successive Hydra, not an orthodox Hydra. The orthodox Hydra organization coexists with various historical branches, and silently finances the development of each branch. And the origin of the orthodox Hydra organization is quite early, about 1,400 years ago, when a powerful inhuman hive appeared on Earth, and this inhuman was sent to a distant planet due to its excessive ability, and Hydra was built to bring back this alien, and in their hearts, this alien is a god. Each period of the Hydra branch and the main branch must send people to the planet where the hive is located through the Blackstone portal, the stone that devours Jean Ma Simmons, if you have read the comics, in order to save or serve the hive, now known as the Far Star Project. However, until now, the Far Star project has not been completed, mainly because Hydra has not received a response from the Hive, and this plan has also been shelved. By now, Hydra basically did not have any expectations for the Far Star project. Maybe, you can try it like this: find a new god and worship her. In this way, Hydra may no longer need to worship any Hive aimlessly, Grant Ward suddenly thought, with a touch of madness in his eyes. Hydra is a very large organization with many branches. Each division has a leader, and although Grant Ward is undercover, he is also a very important undercover, so in this area, there is still a little influence. In addition, there are other leaders, and Grant Ward basically doesn't get in touch with them. Unless there is something critical to do, they will get together. Soon, Grant Ward secretly contacted the leaders of several other Hydra divisions and voiced his intentions and thoughts. Originally, Grant Ward was ready to be reprimanded and even punished. After all, his plan was to betray the faith. But what Grant Ward didn't expect was that the leaders of several other divisions actually fell silent after listening to what he said. In Hydra, silence represents everything, representing the absence of opposition. Grant Ward was surprised by this, but quickly figured out why. In fact, this is also normal. The beehive has disappeared for 1,400 years. After such a long time, where is their loyalty to speak of? Hydra has been incognito all these years, and it is really too humiliating. Change the boss, maybe the day will come? And Hela's origin and name are much more powerful than that beehive. God of Death, rule the 9 realms, conquer the 9 realms. Such an awesome existence. How cool is it to be the boss of Hydra? Of course, the main reason is that Hydra urgently needs to find a backer. Although the current Hydra members are still all over the world, under the blows of S.H.I.E.L.D, they have no chance to show their heads at all, so that many plans have failed, and they are often caught by S.H.I.E.L.D. This careful situation is like walking a tightrope, and you must pay attention to S.H.I.E.L.D's every move at all times, otherwise death and destruction will come at any time. Once all of Hydra's strongholds are taken down, the efforts of these 100 years will be in vain. An organization can't be as powerful as a country, right? What is the reason why Hydra was able to play a great role in World War II? Hitler, fascists, the evil Reich. They have no shortage of manpower, no shortage of resources, and most importantly, a well-known boss who can do whatever they want. But with the demise of that evil enemy country, Hydra turned into a maggot in the sewers, unable to survive and do almost nothing. Now is the best chance to untie this knot. After receiving answers from his peers, Grant Ward began to think carefully about how to approach Hela. If Hela is willing to accept the faith of these Hydra members, then the rise of the Hydra Empire will be led by Asgard, a star domain outside the Earth, and conquer the Earth and conquer mankind. But once it fails, Grant Ward doesn't know if he will survive. In the follow-up plot, the characters in the comics will be added for linkage, and the feeling of refreshment must be full. All readers and lords, please subscribe. Rush Rush, Episode 57. The risks and benefits between the two are too great for Grant Ward to be careless. After thinking about it for a long time and analyzing it over and over again, Grant Ward was still determined to try. He has no way back. After seeing the powerful power of S.H.I.E.L.D, he could not see the future of Hydra, so he could only gamble again at this time. Thinking of this, Grant Ward gave instructions to one of his agents, telling the agent to contact Hela first. As for whether it will be achieved or not, it depends on the will of God. And that man named Feng. Hydra will always be a believer under your command. My respected God of Death, will you accept us? Grant Ward's eyes flickered and his face went crazy. Feng, who was discussing the plot with several well-known screenwriters on the set, had a carrier pigeon flying from nowhere on his shoulder. On the feet of the carrier pigeon, there is a string of parchment-colored notes. Feng was stunned for a moment and took the note off the soles of the carrier pigeon's feet. When he saw the signature on it, he couldn't help but be surprised. Gui, how would she know about me? A simple sentence was written on the note, to the effect that Feng could come to the temple to find him and meet him. As the protector of the earth, Gui, who was known as the Supreme Mage, Feng felt that he still needed to respect it. Although he didn't understand why Furuchi came to him, he always felt that this matter was a little strange. Moreover, Gui still kept the time gem, and Feng felt that he should go more. After leaving the set, Feng set off. According to the navigation positioning, he found the nearest temple in the center of the American capital and walked inside. Karma Taj has 3 temples, and the center of the American capital is one of them. Each temple has special magic that ordinary people can't see. Of course, Feng must be able to see it. His sensing ability is already very good, so the disguise of the temple in front of him is useless. Entering the temple, a quaint breath came to the face. At the same time that Feng entered the temple, a mage walked up. Please follow me. Ancient One mage is waiting for you. This mage was not the one who appeared in the movie, so Feng didn't care. He nodded and followed the mage into the depths of the temple, where there was a staircase leading to the 2nd floor. Please, the mage said to Li Feng respectfully. Li Feng hesitated, but decided to go in and take a look. First, the strength is strong enough, and he is not worried that Gui will be unfavorable to him. Second, Li Feng also wanted to know what Gui's purpose was in inviting him over. After entering the second floor, Li Feng found that in front of him a man wearing a mage's robe and a hood was facing away from him. After sensing that someone was coming, this person turned around and looked at Li Feng. It was none other than Supreme Mage, Gui. Hello, Mr. Li Feng. Gui nodded politely to Li Feng. Just like in the movie, his temperament was extraordinary. Li Feng was the same, greeting, and began to inquire about Gui's purpose. Supreme Mage, I don't know if you invited me over. Is there something wrong? Li Feng asked very bluntly, a little curious about Gui's purpose. Please follow me. Gui smiled, did not speak directly, but in front of Li Feng, suddenly opened his hands and drew a circle in the air. Soon, something similar to a portal appeared in front of Li Feng. Through the portal, Li Feng saw at a glance the mountains covered in snow not far away, as well as the Taoist temple located on the mountain. This is Karmatage. Gui made an inviting gesture to Li Feng and said, Mr. Li Feng, welcome to Karmatage. After that, he stepped in. Li Feng did not refuse. Anyway, he also wanted to go to Karmatage to see. After all, this place is a rare pure place in the big city. Soon, the two crossed the portal and came to Karmatage. This place is known as the Holy Land of the Strange Mage. The whole house is very ancient architectural style of the Celestial Empire, and the Haudai attic reveals an immortal aura everywhere, which calms Li Feng's impetuous heart a little. And when Li Feng and Gui appeared here together, the monks who were guarding the holy places also hurriedly bowed slightly to Gui, their faces full of respect. As for Li Feng, there was a hint of caution in their eyes. However, Li Feng didn't have any ideas about these people, and he didn't bother to take care of them, and followed Gui into the courtyard together. In the courtyard, the mages who were practicing magic in the square appeared in front of Li Feng. Li Feng's gaze swept over these faces one by one, and he suddenly said curiously, Ancient Mage, do you have a person named Stephen Strange here? Stephen Strange? When Gui heard this, her steps suddenly stopped, and then she looked at Li Feng with a surprised expression. You? How do you know the name? I have to say that Li Feng's question was too clever. It turned out that just yesterday, a man claiming to be from the capital of the United States came to Karmatage. This man's name is Stephen Strange, originally an excellent neurosurgeon. Due to a car accident that caused his hands to no longer work properly with a scalpel, in order to heal his hands, he traveled all over the world to no avail. Desperate, he could only come to the Himalayas to seek the help of Ancient One. And as a profound mage, Gui naturally blocked this guy out of the door like a plot. Now, I guess I'm still starving and frozen. However, Gui never expected that Li Feng would actually mention this name. This was a bit of a surprise to him. Seeing Gui's reaction, Li Feng knew that the plot of Dr. Strange should have begun at this time. He smiled casually and said, Dr. Stephen is a very powerful person. When I went to the capital of the United States, I had a conversation with him, and he showed his knowledge in every way. Gui smiled calmly, and then took Li Feng to the place where he was specially entertained. The two sat down facing each other, and Gui poured 2 cups of clear tea, and the fragrance instantly filled the entire room. Li Feng narrowed his eyes slightly, picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip, and praised, Not bad, good tea. You also know how to taste tea? Furuchi asked slowly. Understand. Li Feng was not in a hurry and responded calmly. In front of this old mage who had lived for hundreds of years, he didn't want to reveal too much, because he doesn't yet know what the purpose of this guy calling himself is. Don't be nervous, Mr. Li Feng, I called you here, just to communicate with you. I have no malice towards you. Episode 58. Gui said to Li Feng with a smile, his expression calm and his eyes clear. It really doesn't seem like there's any killing intent or anything like that spilling over. However, Li Feng did not fully believe that the heart of defense was indispensable. Make a friend, there is no need for such a big battle, right? Not only did you bring me to Karmatage, but you also secretly converted the surrounding space into a mirror space. It seems that your sincerity is not very enough, Li Feng said with a cold expression. From the moment he entered, he had already detected the spatial fluctuations around him. In other words, this is a mirror space, and the entire world cannot contact the outside world except Li Feng and Gui. It's not about making friends, it's more like making a shot at yourself. Gui shook his head, still in that calm posture, and said softly, Mr. Li Feng, I am very interested in you, because some of the things you have done recently have made me very curious. Can you tell me how your power came from? Gui's words revealed a message, that is, she had been paying attention to Li Feng for a long time, and she also knew that Li Feng's strength was very strong, and the strong was excessive. That's why she didn't start as soon as she came in. If you have something to say, just say it, no need to beat around the bush. If you really want to make friends with me, I hope you show sincerity. The more Gui said, the more Li Feng confirmed his guess. This supreme mage really planned to deal with him. However, Li Feng is not afraid. How strong his current strength is, he does not know. but it is definitely not something that Gui can fight. If he doesn't want to try it, then come along. Huh. Gui smiled slightly at Li Feng, stood up, and said, Mr. Li Feng, you are very smart. Indeed, I invited you to Karma-Taj not just to make friends with you. I was also instructed by an old friend who is very interested in your power and even more interested in everything around you. But he can't come to you anytime, anywhere, so just leave it to me. Say hello to you. Hearing this, Li Feng narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, Who? The guy who told me didn't want me to tell you who he was. However, if you want to know, let me see your strength. Li Feng also stood up and asked, What do you want to think? Let's make a bet. How? As long as you can inflict substantial damage on me in this mirror space, then I will not only grant you all the magic I have mastered, but also tell you who that guy is. If you can't break free, don't worry, you need to stay at Karma-Taj for half a year. During this half a year, you can't return to the United States. I will do my best to take care of you with the best hospitality. Furuchi did not hesitate and stated his purpose, a gamble, and Li Feng, after listening to Gui's words, not only did his heart not fluctuate, but he even wanted to laugh a little. Just with this small mirror space, hoping to trap him, is Gui too inflated, or does he feel that he is too weak? Moreover, he has now entered the mirror space, bet on him or not, is he the final say? Even if Li Feng didn't want to gamble, he had no choice. However, it seems that Furuchi does not have any malice towards him. But the purpose is a little strange. Lock him up for half a year? Why is that? What will happen in this half year? Li Feng didn't continue to think about it, because when it came to the existence of the Supreme Mage level, anything he did had her deep meaning, and it was pointless for him to guess. As for those spells of the Gui Hui, Li Feng didn't care. So, let's start now. I look forward to your performance. Gui smiled, and then his body gradually became translucent, just standing in place, motionless, and smiling at Li Feng. Li Feng shook his head helplessly. He already knew that it would be so troublesome, so he did not agree to Gui's invitation. Now that the matter has happened, Li Feng no longer hesitates. Isn't it just a small mirror space? What is it? Li Feng didn't make much movement, just sneered, stretched out a finger, and gently pointed in the direction where Gui was standing. So, suddenly, his fingers turned into countless huge tree roots, burrowed out from the flat ground, and rushed towards Gui. And the appearance of these tree roots not only made the entire mirror world rotate, but also caused a large number of cracks to appear around. This is just the beginning. Now Li Feng can use all his strength to cause much destructive power. He himself does not count. But one thing is certain, the so-called mirror world is almost nothing in his eyes. The thick roots swept towards Gui like crazy, and even spread along those high-rise buildings. Then, countless terrifying branches scattered in the shape of spider webs centered on Li Feng. These shocking tree roots did not touch Gui for the first time, but continued to expand and go deeper and deeper. Gradually, the high-rise buildings in the entire space began to crack, and the basic structure of the entire Earth began to collapse. Endless tree roots poured up the Earth along the cracks, and the originally peaceful world instantly became a towering tree with lush leaves. And Li Feng and Gui are standing in the space like this. You look at me, I look at you. The next second, countless trunk branches forced the operation of the entire mirror world to a halt. Loud and shrill noises kept coming, and terrible earthquakes followed. The mirror world began to crumble, and the entire space began to disintegrate. Go! Li Feng curled the corners of his mouth, and his lips moved lightly. Swish! The roots of the trees that were wrapped around them, as if watered by the water of life, swept madly towards Gui. And Gui, who was standing in place and translucent, her whole face was full of incredulity, and before the roots of the tree were about to touch her, she suddenly raised her fingers and drank gently. Solution. The roots of the tree came in an instant. Subsequently, the entire space collapsed into pieces, and Gui suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and the whole person took several steps back, almost not standing firmly. After shattering the mirror space, Li Feng found that the scene around him had changed, and it happened to be one of the temples in the capital of the United States. This is the real world. He is not at Karma-Taj. Rather, it is in the temple of the United States. Li Feng gradually raised his head and looked at Gui not far away. The latter wiped the corners of his mouth, with a thick shock in his eyes, and said, Your performance is much stronger than I expected. What did you just do? Why did I lose control of the mirror space? This situation has always been. Dark magic comes out, right? Li Feng snatched her words and asked rhetorically. Episode 59. There was a hint of killing intent in Gui's eyes. Li Feng was right. Such destructive power, in her impression, has never appeared only when using black magic. Do you still want to gamble? Li Feng did not speak, but looked at Gui coldly and said. He didn't want to conflict with Gui, but it didn't mean that he was afraid of Gui. It was just that Furuchi didn't really make a move on him, otherwise he wouldn't have let this guy go easily. As for the means used just now, it was the means by which the power of the symbiote god and the Steppenwolf were combined. Through his own imagination, he can transform the symbiote god in himself into anything. and the Steppenwolf template happens to enhance this power. No need, you win. This is the first time I've lost at the hands of an earthling who isn't a mage. You're not using black magic, are you? Gui looked at Li Feng and asked. Of course. Li Feng smiled disdainfully and said, that thing, compared to my strength, is nothing. Gui was silent for 2 seconds, and did not continue to question Li Feng's words. Since she was a supreme mage, she could naturally feel that there was no shadow of black magic on Li Feng. She said softly, Mr. Li Feng, as I said just now, I will teach you all the magic I have mastered, as long as you are willing to learn it. I'm not very interested in this matter can be put aside. I'm more curious, who asked you to contact me, Ancient One Mage? Li Feng hugged his chest with both hands, leaned against the wall, and asked lightly. Gui pondered for a few seconds, and said, the Lord God of Asgard Odin. Odin? Li Feng frowned. Why did Odin notice him? It stands to reason that he hasn't contacted Thor yet, so he won't provoke this madman who is known as the King of War in the Nine Realms, right? Don't worry, Odin has no ill will towards you. Gui seemed to see what Li Feng was thinking, and said, what does he want from me? Li Feng asked. None either. Furuchi shook his head. Li Feng did not continue to ask. Being targeted by an Asgard god is not a good thing, but he knew that Odin's limit was approaching, and it was impossible to think anything about him. What collision can occur between two people who can't hit with 8 poles? Ancient One Mage. Li Feng glanced at Gui and said in a calm tone, I'm not a good-tempered person. Next time if this happens, I will tear down all 3 of your temples. See you again when you have a chance. After speaking, Li Feng turned and left. He didn't have any idea of staying longer at all, and he didn't plan to make friends with the old set. No need, as long as Furuchi doesn't come to his trouble. After Gui heard Li Feng's threat, he paused in place for 2 seconds and smiled helplessly. It wasn't until Li Feng left completely that her expression became serious. From the beginning, Gui did not expect the mirror space to trap Li Feng. Her real purpose was not to test Li Feng's strength. Instead, I want to see if this guy has the power of the goddess of death on his body. Now it seems that there is no such thing at all. Originally, she planned to use the power of the time gem to continue testing, but the strength that Li Feng had shown before was too strong, and she was worried that the time gem would not be able to resist, and she was also worried that Li Feng would explode because of this, and it would destroy the temple. Moreover, that gamble Gui itself was rushing to lose. Some people, who pursue magic to death, cannot find the slightest trace of the existence of magic. And some people, even if you are not interested in magic, there will be people who let you learn. Li Feng is the latter. The reason why Gui was willing to teach Li Feng magic was because he saw his strength. With the time gem, she has seen what will happen at some time in the future. She did not ask Li Feng to become the protector of the earth like her, but only hoped that after Li Feng learned magic, he would be able to solve disputes when the earth encountered danger. Of course, in addition to this careful thinking, there is an important reason. It was what she said earlier about being trusted. The purpose of that old friend was not to trap Li Feng, but to find out whether Li Feng had the power of the goddess of death in him. Now it seems that this is just Li Feng's own strength. Odin, you have been hiding in Asgard for almost hundreds of years. Why don't you dare to come out of the 9 realms and face those powerful existences? Gui walked to the window, looked up at the sky, sighed, and said, the way of the world is about to change. At this time, Asgard, main temple, Odin sat on a throne, holding a scepter, his face gloomy. He was angry. There are 2 sources of anger. The first is his personally chosen successor, the rebellious son, who once again ran to Earth, and despite his own warnings, asked the Earthlings to help him find Hela. The second, naturally, is Hela. After Hela escaped from the S.H.I.E.L.D before, Odin had never been so angry. At most he was a little worried. But after learning that Hela actually parasitized an immortal body and became a husband and wife with Li Feng, Odin completely fell into anger. His son, his daughter, which is not the most powerful god in the god realm, which does not have noble Asgardian blood, Thor actually fell in love with mortals and brought her to the house? Hela is even more excessive, and actually conceals that she found a mortal to marry? In the future, will you still have children? Merge the noble bloodline of Asgard with the mortal bloodline of the Earthlings? This is simply an insult to the glory of Asgard. Not to mention how angry Odin, as an old father, was when he heard that his cabbage was arched by a pig. But no matter how angry he was, he did not lose the sanity that he should have as a god king. Although the relationship between the two was not good when Hela was deprived of his divine position and locked up in the dungeon, he always did not want to see this powerful child exiled to the world. Hela is her daughter, and that can never be changed. But his daughter found a mortal, which Odin could never accept. Even more uncomfortable for Odin than Hela's rebellion before. Heimdall, inform Thor for me and let him go and kill that mortal. Odin commanded Heimdall. He decides to put Li Feng to death and bring Hela back to Asgard. After hearing Odin's order, Heimdall did not leave immediately, but said expressionlessly, Your Majesty Odin, are you sure you let Toll? Episode 60. How else? Let you go? Odin sneered and said, Thor is my son, and he obeys my orders and guards the bloodline of Asgard, which is one of his fates. But your son, even if he has Mjolnir, he can't beat your daughter. Heimdall didn't shy away from anything. he always spoke up. Whereas Odin's order to kill Feng, this is clearly to let Thor go to death. Today's Thor is still too immature to be Hela's opponent. If you find the door, you can only give your life in vain. Odin also reacted after hearing Heimdall's reminder, and his face became even more gloomy. In that case, then only if I personally go to the earth, bring back my 2 unfilial descendants, and by the way, let that mortal see what is called a true god. Odin was so angry that his beard was almost upturned. Because of the excitement, even the bruises on the neck burst out. If that's the case, the whole planet might be destroyed. And you forgot? You are constantly watched by the cosmic celestial god group, and if you interfere with other civilizations, you will soon be discovered. At that time, Asgard will be passive. Heimdall persuaded, hoping that Odin would calm down. The cosmic celestial god group, this name is too big. Very early on, Odin had a fight with the celestial gods, but he didn't get any benefit from it at all, but instead made a vendetta against them. Over the years, Odin gradually calmed down and did not pay attention to things outside the universe. But Heimdall is different, he knows everything in the universe. Therefore, once Odin leaves Asgard, the cosmic god group will definitely find a way to find trouble. After hearing the name of the Tenjin group, Odin also gradually calmed down. He is already old. If he was young, let alone the cosmic celestial god group, in the entire 9 realms, no creature could stop him. But now, it's different. So, he can't go to Earth. But when he thought that his daughter and son were making love with the mortals of the Earth, and even having a family and children, Odin's heart was like eating gunpowder, and he was angry. That mortal is the most critical existence. Just kill him and everything will be settled. Odin took a deep breath, his eyes a little tired. If only Loki's kid was still around. At this time, Thor's mother, Frigga, walked out. When Hela rebelled, I never saw you so angry. Frigga chuckled helplessly and took Odin's hand. Can that be the same? Odin snorted coldly. But if you hadn't been furious and locked up Hela's child, she wouldn't have rebelled against you. Would have rebelled against you, would have she? Frigga said in a soft tone, you have also lived for tens of thousands of years, let the children handle the affairs themselves. Hyla and Li Feng's matter, Frigga actually did not object. As the mother of the gods, Frigga is not a person who likes to fight and kill, but Odin doesn't think so. The gods who can conquer the 9 realms, benevolence in their hearts, has never been superfluous. Li Feng, who returned to the set, did not realize that a greater danger was coming. He didn't realize that he had actually made one thing wrong from the beginning. That's right. He doesn't fight, he wants to live a stable life, he wants to have a perfect family, and he doesn't want to have too much trouble. But many times, trouble will come to the door. The reason in the final analysis is that Li Feng has power. Power. Not to mention the power given to him by the system. Just after he quickly became a big director and became famous, trouble will also follow. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility, and the more trouble. This is still the result of Li Feng being as low-key as possible, otherwise he will have more trouble. Team America, S.H.I.E.L.D, these troubles that had been eyeing him from the beginning, he ignored them. If he let go of his body and mind to participate in it, I am afraid that the butterfly effect will be even more terrifying. From the smallest butterfly fluttering its wings, to finally setting off a huge storm. From the very beginning, he was targeted by gangsters such as rioters, and now he is being targeted by Odin in Asgard. This is just the beginning. When Li Feng fought with the ancient mage, an uninvited guest also broke into his villa. An agent from Hydra, wearing a mask and a black tights, she easily avoided the sight of the bodyguard at the door and entered the courtyard. But as soon as she reached the door of the living room, she was discovered by the White Queen's keen perception. The White Queen originally planned to kill the intruder directly, but she found through telepathy that the interloper did not seem to be hostile, so she temporarily shelved the idea. Out of curiosity, she blocked the female agent and asked coldly, "Who are you? What to do here?" The female agent was still very vigilant, but after seeing the White Queen, she took off the mask almost without hesitation, and said with a respectful face, "Respected god of death, my name is Rena, from the Great Hydra. I am an agent member of Hydra. In view of your noble status, my commander has specially ordered me to come and offer you my loyalty." After saying this, she looked at the White Queen with reverent and fanatical eyes. Hydra may not be very good at anything else, but the brainwashing skill is still very solid. After listening to the words of this female agent, the White Queen couldn't help frowning. Hydra? This organization, he had heard from Magneto's mouth, but never took it to heart. But how did they know that Hela was in their body? This made the White Queen have a little killing intent in her heart. But soon Hela took control of her body, looked at the female agent coldly, and said, "My brother told you that I am here?" "No, Hydra has a huge intelligence network." The female agent said sincerely, "Please forgive me, we investigated your information, so we came to the door, but you can rest assured that we have no malicious intentions." "Oh?" Hela sneered, stretched her legs, sat down on the sofa, and said, "Hydra, huh? I do not accept worthless loyalty, say your worth." Hela did not refuse Hydra's surrender, but did not accept it easily. Not all cats and dogs are qualified to follow the great goddess of death. I think that when she fought in the 9 realms, I don't know how many Inhumans wanted to join her, but they were all blocked by her. As the only goddess of death in Asgard, she has pride in her heart. How valuable can a group of mere mortals be? After hearing Hela's words, the female agent rationalized her thinking and introduced the origin of Hydra, as well as various power distributions, and her tone was no different from selling products, and she wanted to dedicate her organization to Hela.